So, Chapter 10 of The Mystery at the Manor. Secret Lettering. It was awfully hot and stuffy that night as Beth began to settle down to sleep. She decided to open the window, and as she lay looking at the moonlight coming in, the breeze moved the curtains and she felt much cooler. She began to drift off to sleep, thinking of the story Nana had just finished about Joseph's dreams. As she was dozing with her eyes half open, she was sure that she could see something moving on the bedside table. She began to think that perhaps she was dreaming, because there seemed to be some of the moonbeams caught there, right next to her bed. She tried hard to focus, and then she really did see something moving. It seemed to be twinkling. She leaned upon her elbow, determined to get a closer look. She'd been having another look at the diary before she settled down. She could see now that it was open, and the breeze was gently stirring the pressed leaf on the page. As it moved, the page beneath it seemed to be shimmering. She bent nearer to investigate and realised that there was something underneath the leaf. Very carefully Beth peeled back the leaf. The stalk was very brittle and felt as if it would snap off if she pulled it too high. Underneath there were definitely some marks. They were in black and silver, and hidden from general view. It was hard to make out what they were in the moonlight, so she turned on the overhead reading light. Immediately she realised that it was some lettering that she had never seen before. Some of the letters were in black ink, but some were in gold. These had been what she'd seen twinkling in the moonlight. They appeared at first to be silver, but in fact they were gold, just like the gold on the first page of the diary. Nana had told them that it was something called gold leaf, which was very expensive. She had said that it meant that Elizabeth's family must have been very rich. There had been no more gold leaf on the other pages, so why would Elizabeth have used it hidden away under this leaf? Beth looked closely. She couldn't really make it out, but it seemed to be some numbers and letters, followed by lots of crosses in black and gold. She could hardly wait to show Pip tomorrow. The next morning Beth was surprised at how late it was when she woke. She had expected to be up bright and early with all her excitement, but perhaps the late night accounted for it. She noticed that it was raining, and she quickly pulled on her clothes before going in to Pip, carrying the diary to show him the secret lettering. Together they peered at it, trying to work out what it meant. It seems to be a mixture of all sorts of symbols, letters and numbers, and then there's a sort of pattern with crosses and lines, said Pip. I've no idea what they mean, have you? Beth asked. Not really, he answered, then bent lower to get a better look. Part of the beginning looks as though it's missing, and then it says V something I-T-H, but that doesn't seem to make a word. The next bit, S-T, could be short for street, so it may be an address. Oh, I hadn't thought of that, said Beth. How clever. And the next word almost looks like M-A. Could it be Malden? She asked. I don't know, it might be, and Malden's not very far away, is it? Said Pip. Perhaps the treasure was hidden in a house in Malden. Are there any other clues under the other flowers? It was a bit dark last night for looking properly, she answered. So they began at the beginning of the book together. They just had time to look under the other pressed flowers before a knocking at the door interrupted their discussions. It was Gramps with a huge umbrella. Taxi to the shower block, he joked, indicating the umbrella. But they were very grateful to be under the brolly because the rain was falling quite heavily now. Nana and Gramps always seemed to have lots of rainy day activities. Pancakes were usually on the menu for breakfast. In fine weather, everyone wanted to be outside quickly, but on a day like today, Everyone liked the fun of cooking their own pancakes and filling them with all kinds of different things. Breakfast seemed to go on for ages, and then they all settled down to fill in what was left of the rainy morning. Gramps, of course, got the tackle box out, and for a while Pip joined him, but he soon got bored. Beth and Nana had their heads together over a book about flowers, so Pip began looking around for something to do. His eyes alighted on the storybook they were using at night, so he thought he would choose the next story. He was turning the pages and had just come to a picture of a giant with an enormous sword and shield and a very angry face when Nana wandered over towards him. "Shall we have a story to pass the time away?" she asked. "Good idea," said Beth. "Got anything in there about fishing?" asked Gramps. "I was wondering about this one," said Pip, indicating the giant. "Ah, Goliath," said Nana. "What do you think, Beth?" "I like the story of David and Goliath, so that's fine with me," she answered. "And there is a stream, but no fish, I'm afraid, Gramps." "Never mind," said Gramps. "I always like the underdog to win." They settled down to listen. As Nana came to the end of the story, she began to close the book, and suddenly Pip's hand caught her hand. "Nana, what's that?" he asked, pointing to the bottom corner of the page where today's story had finished. "What's what?" she answered. "Those numbers and things at the end of the story." "These?" she asked, pointing to where it said 1 Sam 17 8-16 in the corner of the page. "Yes, they look a bit like some of the special writing that Beth found in the diary last night." "Do they?" asked Nana. "These numbers tell you where to find this story in the Bible." "That seems strange," said Pip, peering at the lettering again. "There was nobody in the story called Sam, but it says Sam 17. "So it does," laughed Nana. "It's like an address. 1 Sam is short for the first book of Samuel. 17 means chapter 17, and 8-16 means you should start reading at verse 8 and go to the end of verse 16. Nana reached into her bag and brought out her much-used dark red leather Bible. The children knew she always had it with her, but they'd never shown any interest in it before. "I'll show you. It's easiest if you start on the contents page," she said, turning over to a page right at the beginning of the book. "If you look down the list until you find the name you want, then you turn to the page where it begins. So." Her finger travelled down a long list of names and then stopped. "There it says 1 Samuel, page 288. So that's where we begin. 288 will be where chapter 1 starts." She found that page and explained that the large numbers in the text marked the beginning of the chapters. "So chapter 17 starts," she turned over a number of pages, "here. And then the tiny numbers are the verses. So verse 8 starts," now she ran her finger down the edge of the column of writing, "here. And it says, 'Now in those days,' and goes on to tell the story we've just had." "Oh, I see," said Pip. "But you said that you had seen something like this in the diary. I didn't notice any Bible references when I was reading it yesterday." "No," said Beth. "I only found the special writing last night in the moonlight." "That sounds very interesting," said Nana. "Perhaps we'd better have a look at this special writing that you found, Beth." "Oh, yes," answered Beth. "I was wondering if you might be able to help solve the mystery." She was glad that Pip had decided to ask for help. She felt that they'd got as far as they could on their own. Beth went to get the diary, and when she returned she put it down on the table and carefully turned to the page headed September. Nana came over as Beth lifted the pressed rose leaf to show the letters V something ITHSTMA something 7. When we were looking at it this morning, we thought it might be an address of a house, said Pip. It looks like perhaps Vilth Street. We kind of thought it might be in maybe Malden. It's a bit difficult to read, that word, but now looking at those numbers in the storybook made me think perhaps we were wrong. Now then, I wonder, said Nana, moving closer to get a better look. Yes, that might be... She hesitated. Gramps, come over here a minute, can you? You're good at Roman numerals, aren't you? Roman numerals, said Pip. We did those last year at school. Let's have another look. By the time Gramps got over to the table, Pip had his head down over the diary. Give a man a chance, lad, said Gramps. Let's have a look. I think it might be, said Pip. 5, 6, no, 7. I concur, said Gramps, at last getting a chance to see. You what? asked Beth. I agree, said Gramps. V stands for 5. Add to that 2 I's, which stand for 1 each, meaning 5 plus 1 plus 1 equals 7. Well done, Pip. What about the TH? What do they stand for? asked Beth. I think that might make the 7 into 7th, don't you, Gramps? asked Nana. You could be right there, girl, answered Gramps. I thought ST was short for street before. What do you think, Nana? asked Pip. Well now, she answered, if it's a Bible reference, ST can also be short for saint. The Gospels, the first 4 books in the New Testament, used to always be called Saint Matthew, Saint Mark, Saint Luke, and Saint John. I know that some of the letters are not very clear, said Gramps, but I think it could say Saint Matthew. What do you think, Nana? Well, the word seems long enough to be Matthew rather than Mark, and there are the only 2 Gospels beginning with the letters M, agreed Nana. So altogether it should read the 7th, Saint Matthew, meaning the 7th chapter of Matthew's Gospel. And the second number 7 will be the verse, won't it, Nana? said Gramps. Yes, that's right, she said. She was already flicking through her Bible. Here it is, she said, and this is what it says. Ask, and it shall be given unto you. Seek, and you shall find. Knock, and the door will be opened unto you, she read out clearly. Does it really say that? asked Beth. It does, said Nana. Well, I never, said Gramps. I must say that certainly sounds like you should be looking for something, doesn't it? I wonder what it is that you should seek. Treasure, said both children together.